All right, welcome everybody to Cycle Jerks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stewart, joined as always by Dave Dalton, now store manager of a Trek concept store.
Yeah,
Yeah,
loving it, loving it.
beautiful.
Yeah,
All right. And today's a special one for us as Cycle Jerks here. We got one of my childhood heroes and somebody I grew up admiring. The accolades are many on the bicycle. If you rode bikes in the 80s, BMX bikes, our next guest is king of the skate parks. Yeah, just too many things. I mean, he's just accomplished so much. The Hall of Famer. He's also a stuntman in Hollywood, and now he does podcasts. We're so excited to be joined by the great Eddie Fiola today. Eddie, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, one of the things that we always like to start the podcast with is how did you get started in riding bikes like in the early days?
Wow. That goes back a ways. I got a Schwinn Stingray in the very beginning. That got stolen. Started riding skateboards. Skateboards took forever to get anywhere. And I got a Schwinn Stingray again. Eventually, riding with a bunch of friends, back in the 80s, everybody rode a bike and going from point A to point B. We built jumps and we rode, you know, that the housing complexes weren't, there wasn't many as houses. There weren't as many houses and more dirt than anything else. So we built jumps and had fun and we just hung out. So uh, just riding with a bunch of friends, and that's how I got started. And then you have Evil Knievel
Yeah,
that every kid has watched and seen, and so we built ramps and tried to jump over trash cans and all that stuff. So
did you line up the neighborhood kids and jump over them too? That's what my brother
I
did.
yeah, not nobody volunteered for that.
Yeah,
So we had more trash cans that were big metal trash cans, and there were more dented up trash cans than I knew on our block. So
yeah, yeah. It's
it's
funny.
funny. It's funny
Yeah,
you mentioned Evil Knievel though. That was just a flashback, right? Because that's what he did. He inspired all of us to get on a bike and just do stupid stuff, right? Uh,
right.
and no, it's just like, and oh my God, Wide World of Sports, Evil Knievel's going to jump something. Okay, clear your calendar. I'm sitting here, I'm watching it. So
Right. And back then, I mean, it wasn't like, hey, put a helmet on, make sure you're padded up. No,
right.
no one cared. You got
yeah,
a 4x8 sheet of plywood and you put it up on top of a tire. And we didn't crib, we didn't know about cribbing or structural. That thing bounced and flexed and went all over the place. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably the worst trip ever.
funny,
Well,
so
those
funny.
those Evil Knievel events. I mean, that was must see TV for every. I mean, it seemed like the whole everybody just stopped what they were doing. It's like, wait, what? He's jumping what now?
Yeah, yeah.
Tour
Yeah.
buses or whatever. Yeah, those were just big iconic events growing up.
I don't want to get off of Eddie too much, but I remember the controversy when he jumped one of some of the buses, and they said, "Well, he really didn't jump them because two of them were under the ramp, like they weren't." And I'm like, "Fuck you! He cleared 18 other ones,
Yeah,
Who
come on.
cares?"
And
Right.
and back then we didn't think about the suspension this thing had.
Oh,
He's jumping a motorcycle and that was it. We didn't
yeah,
realize it was only 4 inches of suspension.
Right.
We and rock hard tires and it weighing 300 some odd pounds and you know
yeah,
Yeah.
all the calculations that we do now. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a little different than some of the stuff I see in the background of your place there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The bikes were very primitive back then. But I saw an interview with him one time and he was talking about jumping the Snake River Canyon, and he's kind of bitter about it, because it didn't go well. And he said he put all of his stock in this engineer that didn't do it right. And and he says, you know, going into it, I knew I had a 50-50 chance. And the interviewer says, you going into it, you knew you had a 50-50 chance and you still did it? And he goes,
Yeah.
do you know who the hell I am? That was his answer. So yeah, he was quite a character. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But all right, so stingrays with the buddies, making makeshift ramps. How did you ever from there, did you transition into like BMX racing, or did you go because I'd first heard of you at the skate park. That's where,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Um, so like I said, is that we were riding the Schwinn Stingrays, and eventually from the Schwinn Stingrays, our friends that had more money got better bikes, and they had the Schwinn Scramblers and the Tough Wheels and the Moto Mags and the Mongooses, and eventually, and SE was just coming in, so we would go scavenge around in their dumpster and
Uh,
looking for parts, and sometimes Essie would literally throw a bike in the front or in the trash because it had a scratch or it was a blim or it had a crack. We didn't care. It was a newer style BMX bike, and
It's gonna
we
get
used to,
scratched anyways.
right.
yeah,
But when somebody buys something brand new, they don't want any scratches on it, and so anyhow, I had rummaged through his trash can so many times that he caught us, going, and he just kept kicking us out. And eventually he just got fed up with us, and one day he gave me a bike or a frame.
this
So
is Scott
Scott
Braidhop himself.
Breithaupt.
Oh,
Yep,
okay,
yep,
yeah, okay,
yeah. So um after that, you know, having a newer bike style, an actual BMX frame, we were still at our local dirt jumps that we made. Nothing out of the ordinary. Like Evil Knievel style jumps and a landing, and
yeah,
then to go from there, we did go to the BMX track, but it wasn't to race. It was just because they built jumps specifically for jumping. So wasn't there as a racer, just went there to play on the jumps, and we just had fun. So yeah,
got it.
didn't really race. I raced a little bit. I wasn't very fast, but I had fun doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And how old were you at this time?
I'm still in high school, probably 14, 15, maybe 16 years old. I didn't get my license until I was 18. So not until out of high school did I get my license. So I rode my bike everywhere.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't need to pay for gas. I didn't need to pay for insurance. My bike got me everywhere I needed to go. We rode for miles. I lived in a city called Bellflower near Long Beach. And we used to ride our bikes all the way to Huntington Beach, which is probably about a 10 or 12-mile ride. And it doesn't sound
The
like a
BM
lot if you're on a road bike,
right.
but if you're on a single speed BMX bike with a plastic seat, that's far. But we didn't think it was far. We just were going on a ride.
Hmm. Yeah, I used to ride
Well,
my
that was it,
BMX.
and you could do it too because you didn't have to be home then when the street lights came on, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Our parents didn't care.
No,
yeah.
no. And our parents had no idea where we were.
That's
No
right.
idea.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty crazy. Parenting has changed quite a bit. Uh, well, okay. So when did the skate parks start happening for you?
Right. So, BMX, we go to the track and do this. Um, we go to the bike shop and drool over all the new BMX parts, uh, picking up the magazine BMX Action, Bicycle Motocross Action back then.
Yeah,
And, I was reading the magazines and saw that they let this guy, Tinker Juarez, in
Oh,
in the skate park, right? So now he's at the skate park, and it's a full pictorial, and he's on the cover, and it was just like, I know where that park is. I know where they shot that, but they don't let bikes in there. They just let skateboarders. But
yeah,
found out that that they let the bike riders ride, and now to con my mom to go down and sign her life away to let me go, ruin my life.
Well,
Yeah,
you had to
right.
sign a waiver to get into the park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't do it as a minor. We had one here in NorCal in Milpitas. Um,
Uh-huh.
and we would throw our bikes over the fence. We had to, and after hours, and ride it.
Right. Right.
Uh, but yeah, they wouldn't allow BMX. So was that in Upland? Is that where?
No, so that was in a city next to Bellflower called Lakewood
Okay.
Skate Park, and it was they had a snake run, they had a flatland run, they had a downhill slalom type style. And then they had the monster bowl, and this
Oh,
thing was just a big round bowl, coping probably like 2-3 feet of vert, and it was one of the biggest bowls I've ever seen. I didn't really ride that bowl. I rode more of the half pipe, and somebody mentioned to me the other day, they going, which way do you turn when you ride? Like which way do you do your airs? And I explained to him I can do my airs in both directions, mainly because of Lakewood Skate Park being a complete half pipe and it going downhill. So as we roll in, we turn right, and then we turn left, and then we turn right, and
yeah.
we'd end up at the bottom of the bowl, and that was it. So we didn't stick in like a normal half pipe where it's, level. And so I just learned both ways. So
Yeah.
What year is this? Because this sounds like I'm thinking about the first skate park that my son went to, and that's when we moved here. It was in Pleasanton. So this is like, I don't know, 20 years, I don't know, not that long ago. And it was so rudimentary. It was just like a big block of cement, that someone could jump up on, and then a rail. And I mean, this is how long ago was this? It sounds pretty progressive. Slalom
it
course and
yeah, so this was early late 70s, early 80s. It was
okay.
built, back when skateboarding first came in, and it was mainly for skateboards. It wasn't made for bikes, but like the half pipe was a true half pipe. There was no flat bottom. There,
Oh.
um
Hmm.
the snake run was, from the top, and it literally a snake run. So it just came downhill and they had humps. But yeah, that was early 80s.
Yeah, I remember reading about it and just couldn't believe that that was happening. Like we didn't have anything like that out here. And
Yeah.
and then when the thing opened up in Milpitas, I was so excited. And then we went down there and just like, oh yeah, no, this is not for you. You have to ride a skateboard in here. I was like, wait, whoa, have you seen the
Yeah.
man? This is what's
Right.
happening
That
in
yeah,
BMX.
that I was laughing because you said, well, it was not designed for bikes, it was designed for skateboards. And I'm thinking, well, pools weren't really designed for skateboards either, but somehow we made it work, right?
Yeah,
Right. And they just took what skateboarding was bringing in, and they made swimming pools that skateboards could ride in, and it was,
yeah,
Dogtown and Z Boys. But you had to pay to get in. You had to have your parents sign a waiver. Um, but it was like, I think it was $5 for all day long. So
Mm.
yeah. So you mentioned the bowl having 2 to 3 feet of vert. And I know like we had a big ramp here. It was called the chicken ramp, and they it was a very popular ramp. It's huge. And it also had three feet of vert on it. And I was riding half pipes and stuff back then, but I had a hard time with having that much vert because it would kick you back. And a
right.
lot of I never landed flat bottom on this ramp, but I landed near the bottom, and just a couple of my buddies flat bottomed there. And so was that an adjustment, or was it just kind of like, hey, that's how you started, so you just kind of learned how to work with it? But a lot of the bike
Yeah,
ramps, generally speaking, didn't have that much vert, if any vert.
right, right. So at Lakewood, the the Monster Bowl had all the vert. It was
Mhm.
straight up and down. It had, 2 to 3. But the smaller bowls, right as it hit the not before coping, the what do you want to call it? Tiles.
Okay,
So
yeah,
the tile area right there would become vert, and then they would have the coping about that. Um, we got used to that, just to vert. So
yeah,
when we went home and made ramps, we did, 8 foot tall and just to vert, and bending the plywood. And our first design was out of bicycle motocross action when they started building ramps, and we had that 2x4 construction where nothing was smooth. It was dank all the
yeah,
way up,
right.
um, and then as BMX riders, we didn't add that coping for any purpose. I'd rather ride without coping
Yes,
and just to vert. So uh, it was a transition, but when everybody else is riding something, we switch over and try to ride the big vert stuff and see how we like it. And eventually, got used to it and figured out that you don't pull, you just lay up against the wall and ride it that way.
right. Yeah. All right. So, and then at some point, there's the formation of the AFA. I think it was in the early 80s, right? And that was that did Bob Morales, did he start the AFA?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
he
Bob Morales started the AFA. And so what it was is that, so they started letting kids go into the skate park, and um, skateboarding was on its decline. And
Mhm.
so they weren't getting any money in. And so all these guys on bikes wanted to ride, and we were all willing to pay our $5 to ride all day and, play the arcade games and eat the food that they had. And so we were a big thing that saved the skate parks way back when. And um, when so what really started it was the magazine. And I had gotten I was writing every day. So I don't know. I have a book, and I explained this whole thing in the book. But so I've been going every single day of my life after school, riding the skate park, riding my bike. And one day I show up without my bike, and I'm just have my girlfriend with me, and we're just at the skate park playing the arcade games. And when I get there, I see Timmy Judge in full uniform, and Bob Bob Osborne is there with his camera bag, and he's taking photos of this guy. Now, this is Lakewood Skate Park, my park. I went every single day that I rode, and nobody. I've never seen this guy at my park. I know who he is, but I've
Sure.
never seen him ride the park, and there's no way he can ride or know the lines that I'm riding. And so I watched for a couple minutes, and I'm going, dude, that. So I know who Bob is, and I run over to him and I say, hey, how long are you guys gonna be here? I only live down the road. Can I bring my bike? And how long are you staying? He says, I don't know how long, but so I run home. Now it feels back then, it feels like 5 miles. And I've been telling everybody my whole entire life, I ran home 5 miles and got my bike and rode back. We're doing a documentary on the book and my life. And so we actually drove it and hit the counter. It's
Yeah.
2.5.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
just,
but it,
Five,
just,
five sounds better. Five sounds better.
well,
yes,
and you can
sounds better.
understand in that situation where you just, it seems like an eternity, right? You're just like, I got to get back with my bike, you know?
Right. But I mean, so you like when you do something for so many days, for every day of your life, point A to point B doesn't feel that long to you because you do it all the time.
Right.
It's like when you walk to school the first day, man, it's taking forever. The end, but by the time you're in high school or whatever, it's not that far.
Sure.
So,
Right.
so anyhow, I run home. I get my bike. Now, running home, here's the other thing. Running home, I can jump fences. I literally felt like um, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I'm jumping through backyards, going through bushes just to cut corners and to save time. But by then I get my bike and I ride back, and literally Bob is throwing his camera bag over his shoulder,
Oh no.
and I plead with him, I beg him, just watch, just one run, please. And on the skate park was, a cement skate park, but the building was just a trailer, so it was up above ground. So the platform looked over the skate park. So I'm begging and I'm pleading with him not to leave, to at least watch one run. And he's got his camera bag on. And he goes, okay, go for it. So I ride and I do my thing and I land. I go backwards on the snake run. I do a big tabletop and do a big 360. And when I land, I'm actually facing Bob again and I could see him. And I'm way up here and he's down here. And
Yeah.
I could see him take his bag off and start fiddling with his cameras. And he's going to come out and do a photo session with me.
Yeah.
That being said, prior to me, they had done photo sessions with other people.
Right.
And Jeff Watson being one of them. And now they do a photo session with me, and the magazine, 3 months later comes out, and the description on the bottom says, who's better, Watson or Fiola? Well,
Oh,
that's competition.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now,
Oh.
so now the AFA better get formed so you guys can settle it.
Right. So they start, Bob gets in his mind that maybe we should start a competition. And Bob Morales was an entrepreneur in the very beginning. He was selling stickers. He had a sticker shop. He was going to the BMX racetracks and selling stickers. I had the pamphlet of like, pick one out, and for $2 you get a sticker. And so eventually, yes, there was a competition, but before the AFA, it was called the American Skate Park Association, so the ASPA.
Oh,
So
that's right. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack a little bit. So you're infringing, if you will, on skateboarder territory. Was there this going on? I mean, did you guys peacefully coexist, or was it just like kind of skiers and snowboarders, mountain bikers and road bikers? What was?
Yeah, I think we coexisted pretty well. I mean, we all took turns. We had park etiquette. If I'm going to go, I tell everybody, I'm going, I'm going, I'm going. Everybody
Yeah.
says, well, I'm going next, and I'm going next after you. I mean, it was like kind of the arcade game. You're like, I put my quarter down next, and that guy puts his quarter behind mine. And it was just etiquette. And we, uh, uh, what's the word? We respected someone else's run. And hey, you're done. I'm
What
going to
a
go next.
concept. What a concept, a civilized society.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but
Wow.
Dave, you have to remember this is long before scooters.
Right. Right. And we were watching out for, we waited till everybody was done doing their run before we went in, and vice
Yeah.
versa. The skaters waited. I mean, like, I remember, riding with, Tony Hawk and Steve Alba and Christian Asoy and all these guys at the park, and we would just take turns. We wouldn't have any problems with each other. So
Yeah. That's the way it should be. Well, okay. So, let me, so so this is the early days, but you did a lot of traveling because of your, skate park riding and the competitions, right? So you traveled all around. Did you find that? I listened to an interview with Tony Hawk one time, and he was talking
Yeah,
about these skate tours that they would go. And he says, we'd go into Houston, we'd ride a bowl that we never rode before, and we'd see some locals, and we would see somebody do something that we never saw before. And
right,
it was never in the magazines. It wasn't in there was just no reporting of it. And
right.
so, and then we'd leave there and we'd go somewhere else and we'd see another trick that no one had ever seen before. And he says, like, the skate tours were just this great education for him, where he would see these things and then try to, incorporate them into what he was doing. Did you see a similar thing with BMX in your travels, or was it all kind of similar?
So you got to remember where the magazine is, Southern
Yes.
California.
Yep.
Most of the skate parks, Southern California.
Got it.
Um, so when we would go to different cities in different states, it would be, you know, they would be behind the times and
All right.
not so much before us. And then what they would learn is, like, you saw the magazine goes, oh, look, somebody's doing a one-hander.
Yeah.
That was 3 months ago, you
Oh,
know.
right.
So
Yeah.
Mm.
we are already above and beyond and a lot of that stuff. But again, I say this in a lot of different interviews, is that because we were in the right place at the right time, the magazines and the skate parks, that was the reason I got in. I rode the skate parks in
Yeah.
Southern California. The magazines are in Southern California. The possibilities of me being in the magazine, real good possibility. So when somebody says, "Hey, did you invent this trick?" I would say I don't know if I invented the trick before anybody else did, because somebody in Idaho might be riding a bike at a skate park and doing this thing, and they might have done it. What I can claim is that I got it in the magazine first. So
Right. Yeah. Well, so
it,
for
so
years.
I
Oh,
so I never named any tricks after myself. Like it's an invert, or there's other tricks that other writers you know put their name on, and I'm going, there's a possibility there might be somebody out there doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, but not in the right place at the right time.
mhm.
So
Right. Yeah, we felt that here in Northern California, because we always felt like, hey, we're doing this same stuff here, but no one's paying attention to us, so so
yeah,
I
but
do.
like, so the curb dogs,
Yeah.
right? So the curb dogs were doing a ton of cool stuff, and
Yep.
stuff outside the box that we never saw,
Right.
and it wasn't until the magazine went out there to film any of it. So,
Yeah.
and then that's when we saw that there was a whole different type of flatland or street that you guys started.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was really pretty unusual, what the Curb Dogs were doing, integrating both of them together at least. When I was a kid, I always went to these shows, and it was either I went to skate shows or I went to BMX shows. But then when the Curb Dogs started, becoming popular, we went to their shows, and here's skaters and bikes
Yeah,
intermingling, and it was really cool to see the two. Um, it's like an art form, really.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, okay. So how about when you went abroad? So you did this world tour, the GT World Tour, right? Where you went all these different countries. I mean, how old were you at that time?
Probably just got out of high school, 18, 19, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And, when I was in high school, 17, 18, prior to me getting sponsored by GT, I was sponsored by Kuahara at the
Oh, that's right.
exact same time that Kuahara had just done or finished filming for ET. So they wanted to promote the movie ET. I didn't know that they had filmed ET. I didn't know anything about the movie. I just knew that when we got sponsored, this is the bike that they gave the production company, and we would go out to Japan and promote this movie E.T. and the Kuwahara bicycles. So Howie Cohen sponsored myself and a BMX racer to go to Japan for a month and a half while I was still in high school. And that was my first time out of the country, and being able to, you know, see something that you only see in magazines or videos or documentaries and things like that. So um, it was eye opening and an experience that I'm never ever going to forget. But so
Yeah.
so
Wow.
riding for Kuwahara, I did that when I was in high school still. When I got back from Japan, finished high school, Bob Morales said, "Hey, I got a shop, and my shop is literally right next to this company called GT." And I've been talking to them, and they want to know if we want to ride for them. And so Bob Morales set that up, and they gave us. And back then, there's no freestyle frames. There's just
Yeah.
bikes. The only freestyle frame was the Torker. So the Torker with the double top tube on top, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a freestyle frame. It was just the best for freestyle.
Yeah.
So because you could stand on top and do all this other stuff. Anyhow, GT gave us a couple race bikes. We started doing tricks on it, and it went from there. They asked us to, if we would change anything about the bike and do anything different, and they wanted to make a freestyle bike. And I think at that time, Haro had come out with his bike already.
Yeah. The master. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
All right, before
yeah. So Bob liked the double top tubes.
Yep.
So they incorporated the double top tube on the Performer, and I suggested that single bend near the head tube so that we could do some cross ups.
Mhm.
And they did it, and it worked out. So then we went on tour, and we went on
Okay.
this world tour. So we went on a couple world tours. Like I went with Bob Morales in the very beginning, but we didn't have photographers, right by our side and taking pictures of the whole time. And, so the one that made it in the magazine, that was my second world tour, but they considered it the first because it was, documented.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What now? So when you went in high school, you go to Japan. What were your parents?
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
This is pretty crazy, right? You're this high school kid, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go to Japan for a month. I can think as like your parents, what? She signed off on the skate park, but this is something a little different, right?
This is a whole nother
Right.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whole nother level. So, um, let's see, how do so my dad had already passed away. He had cancer, and he passed away when I was like 14, 15 years old. And then I started riding BMX bikes, and I started getting hurt. I was Because I'm learning. I didn't know
Yeah.
what to do. I didn't know what to expect. I was
Sure.
breaking arms, I was breaking legs and fingers and toes and things like that. Um, when I got the opportunity to go to Japan, my mom said, hey, you got to keep your grades up. If you can keep your grades up, then you can go. And um, Howie had talked to my mom, and verifying that there's going to be, adults there and taken care of, and we wouldn't have to spend any money, and everything was done. The way I was able to keep my grades up is I paid the guy next that came with me to do my homework. So I swear I wouldn't have passed without him. And his name is John Hutland. And John Hutland was sponsored by Kuwahara at the time, and I think now races for he still races.
Wow.
Him and his whole family still race. And I think his sister got inducted into the BMX Hall of Fame last year or something like that.
Oh,
So
no kidding. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how did so you had money to pay this guy to do your homework?
No, no, but but the money they would give us money for like to
Like
get
a,
food per
yeah.
diem, like a per diem, and that was the money. We ate like kings because everybody else paid for it, and we were just in the right place again, right place, right time, and everybody just wanted to show their gratitude for us being there from the United States. So yeah, so I the money that I got, I just gave him, and I got a better grade than what I would have gotten.
Yeah, right. Well, man, what an experience. And then, so you come back from Japan, you go back to high school. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine. Did that happen during the school year or was it in summer or?
during the school year, so I was gone, and the other thing is that I I had dyslexia. I still have dyslexia, but nobody knew what dyslexia was back in the
Okay.
day. And so, I my grades were low already. And I would put numbers and letters and switch things around, and I couldn't spell and all this, couldn't read. It was just bad. And they stuck me in a remedial class. So in high school, I was literally in one classroom. I didn't have science, I didn't have math, I didn't have this. I was in with the short bus,
Right.
and that was it. So and to me, it just made it easier for me to go ride my bike. And I had one class, and then I'd ride my bike. So
Right. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I just, what a life experience to take on at 17 years old,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
such an early age. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so then fast forward a few years and now you did the world tour. Kind of back to my original question about the tricks and everything. Did you see anything on the world tour or in Japan where it was like, huh, look at that? Nothing.
not nothing, only because, like I said, is that we were the um, the pioneers. Everybody looked at the magazines to find out what they could or couldn't do.
Yeah.
Nobody went above and beyond. They're still trying to get out of the quarter pipe. Again, with the magazine, all you saw was the end product. All you
Yeah.
saw was somebody in the air. Nobody
Yeah.
knew how fast you went. Nobody knew that you had to turn and do all this. It was, a learning curve that you had to figure out. And unfortunately, you're gonna fall, you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna
Yeah.
crash. And where we were already crashing and figuring it out, and by the time we got to Japan or the world tour, we were so far ahead of the game that they were just flabbergasted. And when we
Yeah.
went there and we were doing the tricks in front of them, it gave them such more insight to try different things. And again, when we built the quarter pipes in the US, when you tried to explain how to build a quarter pipe to Europe, it turned out to be a completely different thing. Like, we rode ramps that were 6 feet wide, 5 feet tall,
Oh,
no vert,
oh,
and then we
right.
and then we would ride ramps that were 10 feet high, 2 feet of vert, and 8 feet wide. So it was variable all the time. But
It's that
back
imperial to
then,
metric conversion.
yes, yeah. So we just, I think, being the professionals that we were, even as a kid, we rode everything to the best of our ability, and everything that we did on their ramps was more than that what they were doing.
Got it.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. That thing with that interview with Tony Hawk just always struck me as like, huh, yeah, I never really considered something like that.
right,
Because, but there is also something to being ahead of the curve and really driving the trends too. Because, like I said, I never even heard of such a thing until that magazine came out with Tinker on it. And it
Right.
was just like, whoa, what? You know, and
Yeah.
immediately you just
Yeah.
wanted to try it as someone who's in BMX, you know, but there were
I
just
think
no
I think
opportunities.
there's something to be said about being in the right place at the right time. I mean, you can't tell me, I mean, this is a dopey analogy, but you can't tell me somewhere out there in the world there's not a better singer than Taylor Swift, right?
Okay.
She just hasn't been discovered, right? And you
Uh-huh.
Right.
know, and may never be, right? And so you're going into Houston, or Tony Hawk's going into Houston, and he's seeing some guy, and he's like, that's a cool trick. Poor bastard hasn't been discovered, you know. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's just the way it is, right?
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's certainly right place, right time, but also it's still got to have all the skills and
you got to
everything,
still have, yeah, you got to
dedication
have it.
and
Right. Right.
determination and
So
everything.
where,
Yeah.
you got to have the talent and the dedication and pushing yourself to try new things or think about new things. And because we had our friends, hey, I'm going to try this. All right. If you do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
always pushing, like we built big gaps and gone, if you do it, I'll do it,
Right.
and
Someone's got
and,
to
and
guinea
then,
pig it.
yep, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So when the
So
first 540 was done, on the bike, it was like, I don't know how it's going to turn out. And, we don't have foam pits, we don't have resi mats, and you either die doing it or
Yeah.
there was, you either made it or you died trying to make it.
Yeah.
There was no jumping off, and we didn't have hard cap plastic knee pads and the, lightweight helmets, and we just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot different now, for
yeah,
sure.
crazy, right? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Um, You mentioned the skate thing has started to die down. Obviously, BMX has been good to you, and
Yeah,
it's you've made a lifelong career of it. But with the skateboard, there was there's ebbs and flows. Have there been those ebbs and flows within the BMX? And
oh
sometimes you
sure.
maybe step back and go, "Oh shit, what am I going to do next?" Or
Right. So early on in the career, right? So skateboarding was on its dive down. BMX came in. When BMX came in, it was good, and it paid well, and I got sponsored. And not only did I get sponsored, but people wanted BMX in their stuff, whatever it was, like in a movie or in a commercial. And so now these commercials, I had gotten into doing, trying out for commercials and things like that after the magazine. So there'd be these auditions for a Del Monte fruit cup
Hmm.
that they wanted BMX in the background. And fine. So we auditioned, and a bunch of guys from the magazine showed up, and we'd all try out, and whoever they thought was the best bet for that commercial, they hired. So I was making really good money off of the commercials.
Oh.
So BMX, then I did a lot of commercials. 501, Foot Locker, Mountain Dew, Del Monte. Uh, I have a whole filing cabinet full of all the commercials I've ever done.
Yeah.
And then then BMX started back in '88. It starts diving down,
Hmm.
and rollerblading comes in, mountain biking is coming in, BMX is on its way down. Skateboarding is still kind of hovering low, but it's not really coming up. And when BMX, started to die out, I'm still riding a bike, but mountain biking is coming in.
Hmm.
So I start riding a mountain bike, and I start riding the mountain bike like a BMX bike. And I put the seat all the way low, and I move the handlebars as far back as I can, and I shorten the distance. And eventually now they want commercials with mountain biking in it. And
Hmm.
so I'm doing these BMX tricks on a mountain bike, and they started to like it, and I start getting more commercials. So I'm staying alive, and I'm still making money. um, Prior to that, prior to BMX dying, you know, in the early 80s, 85, 86 is when they did the movie Rad.
Mhm.
So made money off of that. So now fast forward again back to mountain biking, going out for auditions, they made a TV show called Pacific Blue.
I remember.
Pacific Blue, mountain bike cops at the beach, a dream job, a dream. You're gonna you're gonna pay me to ride this mountain bike at Venice Beach for the next 6 months? Are you kidding me? All day long. So
Yeah.
so so that, you know, I'm staying alive here and there and making money, and you know, like it's a, you know, as the trends move and change, I'm still riding a bike. I'm still riding it like a BMX bike. I still do shows. I'm still doing shows for Gail Webb, and I don't know if you remember, you know, in the very beginning, she was one of the very first people that saw me ride and asked me to do shows in her shows. She was the very first extreme sports show. So she had a half pipe that for skateboarders, to roller skaters, BMX riders, and you know, just made that happen. But now I'm
Yeah.
jumping around.
Yeah. I do remember the
I'm
name
sorry,
Gail
who's
Webb.
Gail Webb? Yeah,
Yeah.
who's Gail Webb?
So Gail Webb is this lady that was doing these extreme shows before anybody was doing these extreme shows. There were the Pepsi team, the Mountain Dew team. They had things like that. They had you know, the BMX action trick team, but Gail would put everybody together. She had bicycle riders, skateboarders, and roller skaters. So um, one of her bike riders, Fred Becker, back name that goes way back, he got hurt and she needed another BMX rider. Somebody told her about me and that I was riding this skate park in Lakewood. So she had come out and saw me ride, and she asked if I wanted to do shows for her. And you know, wait, you're gonna pay me to ride your half pipe?
Yeah.
Another dream job. And she all the food I can eat. So, and back then, you know, when you're a teenager, all I need to do is eat and ride, and that's it. So
Right.
she gave me the opportunity. She came to my house. She met my mom. She said she's got a show. The very first show that I ever did for her was in Northern California at the Cow Palace.
Okay. Yep.
Right. So I'm doing this show. Not only are we doing this little extreme show, but this guy Doug Demokis, the Wheelie King, is also doing a show there.
Okay.
So I've done this. I've explained this to a couple of different podcasts where, you know, I'm just a kid riding my bike and I just love to ride and I'm going to show off and have fun. Doug Demokis introduced me to the world of entertainment.
Uh,
And during rehearsals, we're at the Cow Palace and nobody's inside yet. And Dr. Mokas is doing this wheelie and he's going up the stairs and down the stairs and he's got to go up and over a car and he's still on a wheelie and he's dropping it down and he's rolling around, and not once did he ever put his front wheel on the ground the entire time of practice.
wow.
Now we have our ramp set up. He has his ramp set up. He goes on first, and the entire, you know, auditorium is jam packed. It's filled, and he's out there and he's doing this wheelie and he's doing a wheelie and he's going up the car, and the front end comes down. And, and he's looking at the crowd going, I don't know what's going on. I dropped the front wheel. I can't make it. And the crowd starts yelling and screaming. And he goes around again. He's up on the wheel and he goes around. He drops the front wheel again on the cars. The crowd gets louder. Third time around, he up and over the car, lands it, the crowd goes wild. And at that point in time, it made sense to me that he did that for the people.
Oh,
He
right.
made a he made a trick that he knows that's easy for him look hard.
Uh,
And that's entertainment.
yeah.
So
Brilliant.
Wow. All right.
Brilliant.
So how much of your so when but that doesn't really work in competition, right? I mean, for
not
shows.
in competitions,
Yeah.
not in competitions, but I could take an easy trick and throw a little style in there and
Yeah.
make it look hard or fluent. And it wasn't a hard trick, but people liked it, you
Right.
know. Um, Tony Hawk, we did an interview with Tony for the Gail Webb documentary, and he says, yeah, the tricks I was doing, back when he was 14, the tricks he was doing was a lot of tricks, a lot of um, fancy stuff, right? And it
Right.
wasn't hardcore. And so he got a lot of flack for it because, it wasn't hardcore and he wasn't, just doing all the big airs and hand plants and all this other stuff. He was doing the flashy stuff that people liked, but not in his hardcore competition. They didn't
Right.
like that.
Right. It was more
But when he did a
technical, right? It was more
right, but
technical and not as big air. Like,
right, but when
yeah,
he did a show for Gail, the crowd loved it. He was
yeah,
he was in his element. He was just throwing stuff here and there, and people were just getting excited and yelling and screaming, and so he found a niche that he could still play with and have fun. That he keeps all the easy tricks in his back pocket that he could do every day,
yeah,
and people still get excited about it. So
right. Yeah. Yeah, wow. So, when I think of showman and entertainment in BMX,
yeah,
obviously I think of you. I also think of Martin Apparel, right?
yep,
I felt like Martin, uh, I did Flatland for a lot of years. We had a team up here. We did shows and stuff. It was called Hip a Trick. And I felt like Martin just, maybe it wasn't the most technical rider of his era, although, I mean, he was right there with the best. But
yep,
his gift, I think, was that entertainment. He was
yes,
having fun. He was showing everybody how much fun he was having, and he would hype the crowd up.
right,
And so, yeah, I always tried to take a little bit of that with me when I was doing my flatland shows
right,
up here.
right. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's not about the trick itself, it's about engaging the audience with you. It's like, hey, I'm putting the bike here, but I'm
yeah,
looking at you now,
right,
and then I'm spinning the trick and I'm looking at you now. It's like
yeah,
I'm bringing the whole crowd into it. And I do that today, where I'm just having fun, and it's not about how hard the trick is, it's about how fluent you can make the trick look, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And I don't do a lot of spinny type style tricks. I just have fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you can have fun and project that, everyone else seems to have fun as well, right?
Yeah,
Watching it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so doing the commercials, at one point, was your stunt man life, was it all surrounding bikes, or did it venture off beyond bicycles? Um, yeah.
Yes. So the 99% of it was all BMX, and I wish I could do just BMX stunts, and
Mhm.
I would be fine with that. But not every movie has BMX in it, and
Was
so I
there a
had to
BMX
learn.
movie in the Indiana Jones?
Yeah, right, right. So what I found out is that I had to learn other aspects of the stunt industry.
Mhm.
So one day I was doing this movie called Little Giants, and they
Great
had
movie,
some
by the
BMX,
way.
right? They had some BMX in there, and I met a woman who was a stunt woman that she drove the go-kart, and the go-kart is supposed to hit the guy on the bike, and I fly into the water. This woman is her name is Debbie Evans, and Debbie is a world renowned stunt woman, and she's also a trials rider. Um,
Oh,
and so she rode bicycles and things like that, and I'm talking to her, and she says, "Oh, you really need to meet my husband Lane." And his Lane Levitt is a, again, world-renowned stuntman that has revolutionized the stunt industry by the products he brings into the stunt world. Like, he made this thing called an air ramp, where when you stand on this platform, it launches you over a building, not a building, a car, or out of an explosion and things like that. So he invented this way back when. So anyhow, um, she introduces me to her husband. I meet him. Um, he has a program that wasn't paying, but it was learning. So it was more of a learning aspect, where he had me come out to the production where they were filming, and I would either bring the pads out, run the ropes, or do things, and I learned the behind the scenes of the production company of when they were filming. It also gave me, so when you do stunts, there's no there's no agent that hires you. It's the stunt coordinator that hires you. So the stunt coordinator is only going to hire you because it's his butt on the line, that if you can't do the stunt, they look at him, not you.
oh,
So because he hired you, he wants to make sure that you can do the stunt that he hired you for. The coordinator doesn't necessarily need to know how to do the stunt. He needs to know that you can do the stunt, and that's what he's coordinating.
yeah.
So by me being on set, meeting these other stunt coordinators, getting my face out there, being in the right place at the right time, my very first stunt job, not on a bicycle, was on Independence Day. So as the explosion happens from the big tower, and it rolls through the streets, and it starts to come into the tunnel, and she jumps into the doorway, right right after she jumps in the doorway, through the screen you'll see two guys fly, and that's it. That was my job. i'm I'm hooked up to a cable. I'm laying on the ground. This guy hits a button that retracts the cable at, like, I don't know, it was probably 600 psi
Oh,
on a
geez.
on a, yeah. So I'm going from dead stop to 30 miles an hour in a second, and up in the air, and literally it just right past screen. If you
Wow.
don't know if it's me, then you don't know. And but I they the production company, they had, okay, this guy, we need one more guy, who's around, because I did and because I did commercials. I already had my SAG card, so I'm already in the business. I just
Yeah.
wasn't in the stunt business. So they hired me on the spot. They had me sign um, the contract, and they hooked me up to the wire, and there I went. And
Wow.
after that, I got different commercials and different stunt jobs and throughout my life. And
Yeah. I gotta imagine, like, you know, doing a stunt without your bicycle, right? All these years, it's all the bicycle is everything. And then now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're just going to hook a cable to you and blast you through the air. It'd be like, was there any type of trepidation on your part, or was it more like, oh, I want in on this?
it's so I don't know if it's the BMX section of it or just my mindset, but when you're a stunt man, you have to have this mindset of, hey, whatever happens, happens. Like when
Right.
they tell you you have to get hit by a car, there's the car's not padded.
You're
They're
right.
coming at you at 25, 30 miles an hour. And it's not only do they come at you, but you can't react until they hit you, because you're supposed to be like you don't know it's coming.
Mhm.
But out of the corner of your eye, your peripheral, you got to know that, okay, here it comes, and you get hit. You got to know that it's going to hurt or it's going to work. So
Mhm.
there's, you just have to have that, you know. And I tell guys that are coming into the stunt industry, it's, you have to have a mindset that you can do it, not, well, let's see if I can do it.
Mhm.
If you have a second guess, that's when you're going to get hurt. You know,
Right.
you can't second guess any of this stunt industry. People have died having a second guess or taking a second reaction, and they've gotten hurt, or like death has happened. So
Yeah.
it's just, and I've fallen so much on my bike that, wait, you're going to tell me when to fall? I'm supposed to fall here? Oh, I got that down. It's when
Yeah.
you don't know you're going to fall is when you get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there ever
Yeah, so
a stunt where they proposed, and as a stuntman, do you have the autonomy to say, like, you know what? I was hired for this job, but I don't like the way this is all setting up. This is, and I'm not going to do it. Has that ever happened, or is that possible, or?
I haven't personally. I have turned jobs down. I've only turned one job down that I know. No, I turned two jobs down. The
Hmm.
first job I turned down, um, I'm riding motorcycles, and I can ride motorcycles and I can do jumps. But I like to do, like, if I have to do a gap, I'd like the gap small, and then I'd like to spread it out and then practice farther and farther away. Um, if it's a gap on a tabletop, you could jump and land in the middle and end up on the other side. Now I've done some big tabletops. Um, the commercial, it wasn't a commercial, it was a music video, and they said, yeah, we've got a 70-foot gap, and we want you to jump over the band from point A to point B. I go, can we slide the ramps together and then I can work up to it and eventually get it to 70 feet? They go, and once it's set up, it's set up. So it's going to be 70 foot right off the bat. I'm going to pass.
Hmm.
So I pass on the deal. I find out later on from another stunt guy that took the job that I know, in fact, that I'm better than. And it turns out that it was only like a 20-foot gap.
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah, so I think it's better that I don't take a job I'm not comfortable with than to take a job and go, well, I got to do it. Or, you know, things change on the day of doing shoots, like in The Hangover. I'm supposed to be just another stunt guy on the street, on the sidewalk of Las Vegas, and the cop car is on the sidewalk. In the script, it says these guys are hauling ass, doing 25, 30 miles an hour on the sidewalk. People are jumping out of the way left and right. And that's when they're supposed to put all the stunt people in. Well, it got changed to 2 mile an hour and people walking out of the way.
Oh,
We still get paid the same. We got hired as stunt people, and it just gets changed out. So now that turned into a cakewalk. There are other jobs, like I worked on, um, oh, what's the motorcycle TV show, um, with all the Harley Davidson guys?
chips, chips.
oh,
No, no, no,
oh,
no.
Oh, no, no. Oh.
I'm bad
The
at this. I'm
the
bad at TV.
documentary. No, not the documentary, but the series.
Sons of Anarchy. Is it Sons
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 of
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 Anarchy?
Anarchy.
Anarchy,
Okay, we
right?
got it.
So I got hired on the Sons of Anarchy, and the stunt coordinator uh, says, I want to see you guys. There's I think it's season 6 final, finale or something like that, and this box van comes around in front of the guys riding the motorcycles, and the box van rolls up the door, and the guy starts shooting his shotgun at the guys riding the motorcycles. So I'm in the middle, and there's two other guys on the sides, and these two other guys, they get shot and pull their brake and not slide the bike sideways and get shot. He wants me to get shot in the chest and fly off the back of the motorcycle.
Oh man.
Great. He says, the coordinator asks, how fast do you want to do this? And we're looking at each other going, I don't know, 25, 20, 25, something like that. You know, if you pan the camera this way and we're going this way, it's going to look fast.
Yeah.
The coordinator says, yeah, I'd like to see 40.
Oh.
And that's what we did. I go, can we see what 40 looks like? Can we do a dry run and just see what that looks like, and if you like it? And so we did a dry run. The van comes around and we get our speed up and we're at 40. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going, shit, I gotta let go and I gotta jump off the back of this thing at this speed. Scary stuff.
Yeah.
And as we get back, the coordinator says, yeah, this is it. This is exactly what I want to see. I want to see 40 miles an hour. Great. All right. So there's a trick to trick your mind. And a lot of stunt guys understand this concept, is that, let's say you do a high fall and you got to do 3 stories or 4 stories up, and you got to fall into this airbag. Well, if you go to the 10th story and look down, the bag looks this big.
Mm-hmm.
And as you come down to the 4th story, the bag is this big. So you freak yourself out by going to the 10th story, and you come down to the 4th story and going, oh, I can walk off of this.
Uh-huh.
So in our instance, we go out and we ride the motorcycles at 80, 100 miles an hour as fast as we can right before the stunt. Now you've been driving at, you're doing 70, 80 miles an hour, and then you come around to a 55, or you see a cop and you've got to slow down. You're going, I can walk faster than this.
Yeah.
In your mind, it's way slow.
Yeah.
So after doing 100, doing 80, coming down to 40, oh yeah, no problem. So we did it. Yeah. And the stunt turned out great, and everybody turned out fine. Nobody got hurt, and I landed on my back, and I've got pads on, but just knowing that you got to jump off the motorcycle at 40, the motorcycle, the one I had, so the guys on the side, they get to lane it, they get to slide it sideways and lay down, where
Mm-hmm.
I have to jump off the back of my bike and land on my back.
And you're
If I
literally
jump
landing
off
on the pavement. You're landing on the pavement.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you let go of a bike at 40, it's going to ghost ride. Just keep going. So I have on me a tether that kills the engine, and we have the front of the forks bungee corded to do this. I mean, it's bungee corded to the left hand side. If I let go of the bike, the wheel turns. So
Okay.
as I'm riding, I'm trying to keep it straight. And as soon as I get shot in the chest, I let go, the bike turns, the bike does this, and I fall off the back, and it turned out good. So.
It's kind of at the cost of a Harley. You better get that right the first time, I think, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we have, and that was a full dresser, but it was like they made it look like a 1200, but it's only an 883, and they just built it up. And
Right.
they know that they might not get it the first take. So they have backup. So like they've got 3 more bikes set up.
Oh.
And so luckily enough, we only had to do it once.
So
I
when
know,
this
now
guy
I know why movie tickets are so expensive.
so when this guy comes to you and says, hey, 25 mile an hour is not going to get it done. You need to do it at 40. Is there a point? Because when you're telling that story, I'm thinking, okay, time to renegotiate, right?
Right.
Is there
Right.
that?
So
Is that part of it, or do you just, whatever the job is, you just kind of have to do it, whatever the whim of the coordinator is?
Right. So, there's that old saying, you'll never work in this town again.
All right. Yeah.
I took the job knowing I'm going to have to wreck a motorcycle. I didn't know it was going to be 40, but it's not going to kill me. I'm wearing the right pads. I'm doing the right things. Um, if you, we get, when we come into the set, we get paid X amount of dollars right off the bat. When you do a stunt, you get extra on top of that.
Got it.
We don't know what that is all the time, but the coordinator has put in his budget that it's going to cost this much to do these stunts, and if he's got it in the budget, he can do it. So let's just say here's a situation where I worked on Dusk Till Dawn Part 2, Texas Blood Money. I do a stunt where I get thrown off a building onto some power lines, right? And the camera is underneath the power lines, and the power lines come down to the camera and then bounces back up. There's a cut to me now falling on top of a car. So I'm supposed to get thrown off the building, land on the power lines, bounce off, and land on top of a car. So the first take is me falling onto the power lines. I've got a cable on my back. We've tested it a couple times at speed, at the fall speed, and then slow down, and then the bungee cords on the power lines bounce me back up, and that's a cut. And remember, there's a camera underneath seeing all of this.
Yeah.
The next take is me on a cable, hovering above a car, and this car is 15 feet below me. 15 feet doesn't sound far, but when you're 15 feet above a flat top and it's a free fall. I'm free falling, and I'm going to land on top of this car. Now, we've taken every precaution to make the car as soft as possible. We've cut the pillars. We've taken the steering wheel out. We've taken the seats out. We've putting pads on the inside of the car, but there's still a roof.
Yeah.
And there's still windows, right? And we don't know what it's going to feel like. We can only assume that we've done enough. So anyhow, I land on the car and do all that stuff. So I'll send you a clip of just the landing.
Oh, I would love that.
Anyhow, everything's said and done. Everything turned out fine. The stunt coordinator at the end of the day says, okay, for the free fall on top of the car, I'm going to give you $3,000 extra. Cool.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to give you $5,000 to landing on the power lines and then bounce off. And I asked, and I'm going, that doesn't make any sense, because when I landed on the car, I rung my bell and I got hurt, but you don't tell them you got hurt. You just, yay.
Yeah.
I go, why did you give me 5,000 for the easier job and 3,000 for the harder one? He explained to me this: if shit goes wrong, he's got the camera, and if shit goes wrong, I land on the camera. I die. If the cable breaks, I die. If something goes wrong, I die. He says on the car, if the cable breaks, you're supposed to land on the car. If shit goes wrong, you're supposed to land on the car.
You can't screw it up.
You can't screw it up. You're literally a bag of potatoes, and we're just dropping you.
You can still die, but you can't screw it up. You can still die, but you can't screw up the shot.
Right.
Oh my God.
So anyhow, that's the explanation I got, and I understood it after that. So.
Well, one thing that I've realized in this interview, Eddie, is I definitely do not want to be a stuntman.
Yeah, no, no.
I have a question though, as it relates to all these movies and these, these roles on TV shows and stuff. How much interaction is there with you and the actor you're portraying or the star of the show? And has there been any particular standouts of people that have just been exceptional in your experience over the years?
We've just transitioned from podcast to entertainment tonight.
Yeah. Working with a lot of people that in the stunt industry and the actors, all the actors were great. I haven't had any problems. I worked with, um, Toby Maguire, Harrison Ford, a
Man,
bunch of different, yeah, a bunch of different people where, everything was fine. A lot of the times the actors aren't there during the stunt deal
got it.
because
Right.
we're doubling them. We have somebody that looks like them, and so we don't need them, and the production company gets to save some money by not having the actor on set on that day. But when we filmed the movie Rad, it was funny is that they hired me first because they needed the stunts done more than
Mhm.
they needed the acting done. And eventually they found somebody my height, my size that could act. And at that point in time, I wasn't an actor and I didn't read all that well because of my dyslexia. And I could ride a bike. So they found somebody. This is one of the only times I've ever heard of somebody hiring a stunt guy before they hire an actor.
Yeah,
So he was my acting double. So
interesting.
Funny.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I got two questions. I want to be sensitive to time. I know you said you got all day. But two questions. I'm backtracking to, or I'm getting back off this, but I want to make sure I cover these. I'm very curious about the culture of this BMX world. Number one, I think you had a post on Instagram. People think BMXers are dropouts, right? And we had a whole conversation with Danny Yosa about this as well, like how seriously he takes his fitness and lives a clean lifestyle, and it kind of will shatter people's view of BMX guys. That's number one. Um, and so that I don't forget, I was very interesting this morning on the news. There was a story about the guy in the U.S. Open, um, tested positive twice for banned substance, but they're still letting him play. And then I was looking through your stuff, and I guess there was a controversy a while back about you not having a mouthpiece or something like that. Did I
Oh
hear?
yeah. So that
Yeah.
was
So
hilarious.
so so
Two
the
questions
mouthpiece.
that
Yeah. So first answer, mouthpiece. It was at the international competition in Canada, and I was competing against Hugo Gonzalez, and I was wearing an open face, and I had transitioned to from full face to open face, more showy, more we were doing
Yeah.
more shows and competitions, but I guess um the higher ups wanted us to wear a jofa or a mouthpiece, and I boycotted against it and didn't wear. I had one on, but I didn't wear it, and I got disqualified. And Hugo Gonzalez won that tournament. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've boycotted only two things in competition, and that was one of them, and it didn't work out for me. So the second one was in England, and the competitions weren't freestyle. They thought it was freestyle, and what the US version of freestyle was, you ride your bike and you do ramps, ground, and flatland, and half pipes or whatever, all in one thing. Where in England, they literally had us hopping on our back wheel around cones like a slalom course.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going, that's not freestyle. I am not doing this. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I talked to Mike Dominguez and myself, and we said, hey, this isn't what we came from, and we're not doing it. So by the US guys not competing, um, their their TV coverage went down.
Mhm.
And so they changed the rules and they made things different, and they brought us back in, and it changed the way they had freestyle competitions from then on. So and it worked out. So
Yeah.
the other question, what was the other question?
BMX guys are not dropouts.
Right. So luckily enough, I didn't drop out. I passed with, not flying colors, but I did pass. And I, everybody that I meet that I tell, that is trying to get into BMX or want to make a life out of BMX, I'm going, as they're young kids and they're still in school, I'm going, learn how to manage your money. Learn how, because, you know, we had an opportunity when we were kids or young BMX riders. We had magazines, and we could figure out what our worth was, because, and this is how I did, a magazine would have a full page color ad, and that color ad to let's say GT that's putting it into the magazine, that's $3,000. That's what they would have to pay. If they sponsor me and they give me $2,000 and I get in the magazines 3 or 4 times, well, then they've made their money back and then some, and I've made money. So by us having more sponsors, I made more money. I tell the kids that, you can make a living at it, but you got to know what your worth is. And, it's hard today because there's so many. Back in the day, there was a handful of guys that could ride, and there was a handful of guys that were in the magazine.
Yeah.
And now there's thousands, millions of guys that ride, and millions of kids that are the best at their park. There might not be anybody at that park, and that park might suck, but there's one guy that rips, and he goes there every single day, and he does the same stuff, and he could make money, but there's no, what's his worth, and how do you make anything? Now it's about how many views you have, how many followers you have, and if you're a YouTuber or Instagram and all this other stuff, to where it was easier to make money off of BMX that I can remember. But I'm trying to get back to the point is, we might not be, I'm trying not to say I'm not the smartest one, but I know where I fit in, and I know that it takes this to become this. So I know how to get from point A to point B, and not everybody is a mathematician. You're going to need some welders. You're going to need some mechanics. You're
Thank you.
going to need some
Thank you.
woodworkers, right? You
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
other people. You need people to work on a bicycle that it might, to people that work on bikes or the ride bikes, that might not mean anything, but to somebody who, let's say I have a friend who is a chiropractor. He doesn't know anything about fixing a bike, but I don't know anything about chiropractic. So
Yeah.
we all have our spot in this life.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly getting an education, gives you a good foundation to figure these things out. And I do get the point, like in our era, seems it was easier in a sense because there was only really the magazine, right?
Right.
Now it's just splintered out all over the place. And so determining what your value is today may be a little bit tougher because there's
Right.
just so many different venues for these athletes and trying to navigate all of that. But yeah, having an education is you know, your best bet in terms of trying to understand where you fit and how to
Right.
capitalize on your skills and get the most out of it, you know.
Yeah,
Right. And as you say there, you know, when you're categorizing things also, you know, back in the day when we rode bikes and freestyle was, you know, skate parks, ramps, flatland, wedge ramp, you know, everything. And
Yeah,
now it's been categorized into flatland, street, dirt, parks. You know,
yeah,
it's you, and then that gives you a, you know, I only want to do flatland. Well, then fine. That's it.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's kind of what the bike industry does. We just niche. Everything just becomes niched, you know. It used to be you'd get on a road bike and hit
Oh,
a gravel road here or there, and you know you were just riding your road bike. But now, oh
yeah.
no, now it's gravel riding, and you know, and whatever else. You know, we're always looking to nicheify stuff. But yeah, the sport of BMX has progressed so much. I mean, to your point, back in the day, you were either racing BMX or you were freestyle, and
Right.
freestyle was everything that wasn't racing, essentially.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
know, yeah, yeah. So yeah, well, if yeah, before we let you go, Eddie, what? So you talked about the book and this documentary. Are these
Yeah.
so? I couldn't find the document. Is the documentary in production or is it out or where could we find
So
that? Or
it's in production right now.
okay,
We've got most of the filming done. We're doing a lot of B-roll where we're inserting things here and there, and we're also waiting for the rights or how we're gonna get. So we want to, you know, I talk about the movie Rad, and
hmm,
there are clips of me in the movie being, you know, the double, and they're like 3 second clips, 5 second clips here and there, and we want to do it as legit as we can. We're trying to get a hold of, you know, the people who own the movie, and we're asking permission, and we're doing all of that. But it might there's two options for us: is just take it from the internet and it's it's up for grabs,
hmm,
or and I suggested this. So I just met not too long ago, within the last couple of years, I just met Damian Fulton. Damian Fulton is the illustrator and cartoonist that did Radical Rick.
oh wow,
So if we can't get the rights of what we want to get, and if we don't get the permission what we want to use for the film clips, I had asked Damian if he could do an illustration of the movie Rad, of me doing the stunts, of the spot, just so that we have the legitimate reason for, yeah, you know, it would make the people from the movie, you know, wish they would have had the spot. And
right.
you know, I just thought it would be funny if you know, Damien would do the illustration, and it would be kind of cool to have it done. Um, Not to get off the subject, but it's kind of on the same subject is where I got the idea was from Matt Hoffman. Did you ever see the Matt Hoffman knee surgery or ever see that?
Uh-huh. I did.
Where he has the cartoon doing where he's talking and the cartoon. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be something similar to that, but it would be with Damien and doing the illustration. So that's where it's at, and it's so close to being done. We were hoping to have it done by the end of September,
Okay.
and there's still a good possibility, guaranteed probably by October.
Okay.
So
And
you can go on IMDb and look at the production, and see who's the director is Billy Henrinkle, and Billy also did my book that you can get on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or all these other places. And it's the When I Was King,
okay.
and the documentary is Effortless.
Okay.
So with the
Well,
big E and the F, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, all the things that you were describing in this podcast doesn't sound effortless to me. Sounds kind of crazy, borderline psychotic and
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. But all right, well, we'll definitely look for that. Now, is that going to be, do you know how it's going to be distributed? Is it going to be a YouTube thing, or are you looking to get it on one of the big
We were we're hoping to do like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime. We're trying to go just above YouTube. It's an hour and a half long, so it's a long documentary. We've interviewed Steve Van Doren, Bob
Oh,
Morales, Jeremy McGrath, Christian Asoy, Gail Webb. We interviewed a lot of people, and we've got a lot of old footage of what magazines I've been in and this and that. So
sounds awesome. All right,
yeah,
well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. And Eddie, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and joining us on Cycle Jerks. It's been a real
Yeah,
pleasure.
fascinating stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
well, thank you for having me. And if you guys have any questions and or anything like that, hey, send me a phone number that I can text you, or should I do it on the email? That little clip of the fall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do it via email so we both, because if you copy both of us, if
Yeah,
you just reply to all, we'll be on that.
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay. And yeah, we promote the episodes drop every Thursday. So Dave will create some sound clips on social media. And if you could share
I'm gonna
those.
try to. I got this thing called a new job, and suddenly my days get pretty full. I'll try to get a sound clip, but
All
it's
right.
got yeah. So
All right. All right. Well, Eddie, thanks so much. Appreciate you. And yeah, we'll look forward to that documentary when it drops. And if somebody wants to follow you on social media, how do they do it?
It's I've got an Instagram, it's Eddie Fiola. I've got a Facebook, it's Eddie Fiola. We also have our merchandise at Rad Designs 1986. And I've been working with the Supercross BMX guys, Bill Ryan, and he has the Legends brand, which is also part of the Torker and the former pro bicycles. So
Okay. All right. Great. Good stuff. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for listening. And thank you, Eddie.
you
Bye-bye.
got it. All
sure.
right, we'll talk
Much
to you guys.
appreciated. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. All right. Are we cutting out now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right. Thanks so much.